Hi, I'm Don Jergler, editor of Claims Journal. Thank you for joining us for Claims Journal's podcast. This regular video series on all things claims related is just one of several ongoing changes here at Claims Journal. We've launched a website redesign, beefed up our coverage of how AI and technology are transforming claims departments around the world, and we're now bringing you a steady stream of expert-written insight on trends and best practices in written and video formats. Stay tuned, there's more to come. Hi, I'm here with Andrew Higgins, Technical Manager, Americas at Allianz Risk Consulting. Hey, thanks for being here, Andrew.
That's my pleasure, Don.
So we've had a few big reports come out about severe convective storms, including you folks from you folks at Allianz. And then I know State Farm recently came out and said it paid about $5.6 billion for hail claims in 2025. What's going on?
Yeah, this whole concept of hail has really snuck up on the industry. I'll be honest with you. We didn't anticipate it, didn't expect it, and honestly don't quite understand it. Here at Allianz, we've had a couple of losses over the last couple of years that were quite extreme, and losses that honestly 10, 20, 30 years ago, I would have never thought it would have been able to happen. So we had a loss in Europe where we had a roof system made of asbestos cement roof panels. And there was some age on them, and we had a severe hailstorm, and the hail actually penetrated these cement panels and entered the building. So you have holes in the roof. You typically have large amounts of water and rain associated with severe convective storms. So all that rainwater ended up in the building, damaging equipment, resulted in a lot of business interruption. That's one example. Also, a few years ago, we had another loss in Australia where it was relatively small hail, but it was a large amount of hail that accumulated and blocked the roof drains. And when this happened, you had water ponding on the roof, and the structure was not designed to support that amount of weight, and the roof structure collapsed. And so you, again, have another example where you have a business that is completely down for not days, not weeks, months. And that results in a huge BI loss. Again, 20, 30 years ago, when I started in the industry 40 years ago, hail was a sidebar. Hail was for car damage. We would essentially you would see automobiles or aircraft damaged by hail, but in terms of affecting industrial buildings, it was usually minimal. And in the last couple of years, we're starting to see, again, what I would term these catastrophic losses from hail at industrial locations.
Well, I know you guys came out with a report, like I had mentioned, I think about a month ago, and it said SCS events amounted to a little over $60 billion, if I recall, or nearly half of all insured natural catastrophe losses. Like, how does that compare to previous years and historically?
Yeah, severe convective storms typically represented, I'd say, 40% of all natural nat cat losses, say 10, 15 years ago. And today they represent 50 to 60% of all
bigger slice of the pie, right?
It is. And, we don't quite understand if this is simply an anomaly, or is this a trend that is going to continue to increase in the future? I mean, you would need hundreds of years of climate data to really understand these trends, and we simply don't have that. We have 10 or 20 years of this kind of data to look at. So long term, we don't know if this means that severe convective storms are going to continue to increase. Climate change is sometimes being blamed, and people say that we're seeing an increase in these events, in these severe convective storms. It's really tough to quantify that. It's really tough to say that climate change is causing a higher frequency, more intensity. What we do know is certainly that there's been an expansion of property and infrastructure into the areas, certainly here in the U.S., into those areas that are susceptible to severe convective storms. I mean, here in the U.S., where's all the growth been in the last 20, 30, 40 years? It's been in the South,
Mm.
where we have hurricanes, where we have tornadoes, where we have hail, straight line winds. It goes on and on. That's where most of the growth has been. And so I think that probably accounts for a large percentage of this increase in severe convective storms. And then also, honestly, some of the vulnerability of the buildings nowadays, they're not quite as robust as they used to be. When I first started in this business 40 years ago, most roof systems were built-up roof systems. And it's not that they can't be damaged by hail, but they're generally perform a little bit better than, say, a single-ply membrane, which is typically what you see today. So, it's a combination of the resilience of the buildings. It's a combination of people and buildings being built in areas that are subject to these storms, and maybe to some degree climate change.
Well, beside the massive amount of damage these storms can cause, is there any aspect of them that makes them particularly dangerous or destructive?
Yeah, well, it obviously it's very difficult to prepare for a severe convective storm. They pop up pretty quickly. You can anticipate kind of the potential for having storms in a particular area, but in terms of really defining where you're going to see hail or tornado or straight line winds, that we just haven't gotten to that point yet. So unlike hurricanes, you can prepare for hurricanes a day or two in advance and make those precautions at the local facility. For severe convective storms, there's not a whole lot you can do because they come so quickly. They can show up in a matter of minutes. So really, we ask our insureds to maybe do some things at the beginning of say the spring season or the summer season where we see most of these storms. Do some things to the building, cut down tree limbs that may come loose, make sure your roof drains are clear, things like that. But that's what makes it tough is they come up quickly and there's not much you can do to prepare for them.
Well, I know these events also, and you kind of mentioned this earlier, produce these knock-on effects. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so knock-on effects would be something like flash flooding or lightning. In these storms, we can see large amounts of rainwater in a very short period of time. And what happens is the ground is not able to absorb that water quickly enough, and so it builds up on the surface. And then if you've got any kind of slope at all, that water runs down the slope. And if you've got buildings or equipment downslope of these events, you can have flooding and pretty substantial flooding. So we certainly see these flash flood events occurring as a result of the severe convective storms, and then also lightning. Typically will accompany these storms, and lightning can damage electrical systems, alarm systems in buildings, especially where you have delicate electrical equipment. They can cause a lot of problems.
Well, I know big hail is always bad, but I'm hearing a lot about some of these events that produce smaller hailstones. That can cause quite a bit of damage too, right?
Yeah, it's typically will affect the automotive industry where you get the hail damage to cars. It can also affect aircraft. And that's typically where you see damage from small hailstones. But as you remember, I just mentioned the loss that we had in Australia, where we had the smaller hailstones. They collected on the roof. They blocked the roof drains. And this particular roof did not have secondary drainage or emergency drainage on the roof. And so the water was able to pond. The structure wasn't designed to support that weight, and it completely collapsed. So again, a loss that 20, 30 years ago would be unheard of occurred due to very, very small hail.
Yeah, I've heard a few reports mention some ponding. It seems like that's something that's a little more common.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know if we're seeing more of these small hail events or really what's causing this. Again, I think a lot of it's is a result of simply more buildings, more equipment in harm's way, and
Mhm.
we're just seeing some of these losses that that we wouldn't have seen in the past. Um, I, in places like Australia, I know they are revising their model building codes to reflect some of these current losses and make sure that the buildings have sufficient support and strength to withstand these ponding events from hail. But in that case, had they had secondary drainage, that probably would have alleviated the problem and prevented that loss. So there's always things you can do from a property improvement perspective to really mitigate these kind of losses.
But yeah, for adjusters, I mean, they got to be looking at things like the ponding, if that was a cause of a claim, or be aware of that smaller hailstones could still produce these events. But there are several shifts that we've kind of addressed here, and that your report addresses in recent years. What should adjusters keep in mind from all this? What's their takeaway?
Um, I think they need to keep an open mind to events that could occur. Again, the whole ponding issue is not something I had ever heard of up
Mm.
until the last couple of years. So I think moving forward, certainly keeping an open mind on what could be causing these events is important. Understanding climate change and how that potentially could be affecting the frequency and severity of these kind of losses. But yeah, I think long term we're in for quite a ride in the near future, and just having an open mind and doing their own research and understanding some of these severe convective storm aspects that affect losses and are really becoming a predominant part of unfortunately, our loss scenario these days.
Great, Andrew. Well, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you educating us a little bit.
Absolutely, it's been my pleasure.